first thing that quilters do when they go on vacation is look through the yellow pages to find the local quilt shop. Well, I'm no exception. When I was in Old Town Spring, Texas, I was enjoying a quilt shop when I discovered this basket wall hanging. Oh, I fell in love with it and just had to have it. It was so much fun. Well, I asked the quilt shop owner, Julian Pickens, to do some research for me and just find out who made that quilt. Well, it was made by Eunice Black, a fourth-generation quilter from Fairfield, Texas. Well, Eunice learned to quilt when she was just 8 years old, and her mother used to cover her long stitches with some short little stitches, but you know, she never took out those long stitches. Well, I was very intrigued with this wall hanging because I just loved the way that Eunice did the blanket stitch around each of the applique pieces. I started dreaming about making my own. Well, I discovered this wonderful suitcase in the attic, just full of some basket blocks that I had made earlier from a quilt. And I go, oh my gosh, that doesn't even match up there. Well, in the same stash, I found some applique pieces, some 5-petal flowers. I thought, oh, I'll just put that right over that spot. It was perfect. I had so much fun making this quilt, and I call it Amish flower baskets. The best thing about it is that it was all found pieces. Well, I found the baskets, I found the applique, I even used a piece of black batting for inside. I used some of my buttons to embellish it with. Well, it's just a perfect combination. Pieced blocks with applique overlay. Perhaps your favorite quilting technique is piecing, but what if your pieces don't match or your blocks are just boring? Well, it's the perfect time to add a touch of applique, particularly for the holiday season. Now, Sue Bouchard created this wall hanging for Thanksgiving. Oh, I love it. She used the bits and pieces block. Now, you know how to do that block, and it has all of this great white area in it. And then she added the oak leaves and the acorns for a perfect touch. Now, this is my Christmas quilt. I wanted it to look really old. Oh, and I think I did. I even tricked the boys because I used a tea-dyed background and reproduction fabrics to just create this for the season. Oh, it's great. Now, you might want to go ahead and make a quillo with some applique. This is the holly wreath pattern on a quillo, perfect for gift giving. And this is the pattern that I used. Now, you might want to just take these holly leaves and add it to a quilt. Ooh, Sue Bouchard put it on the Irish chain. It's great in those country reds and off-whites. Now, Cynthia did the machine quilting on it, and oh, she loves those feathers. Just beautiful for the holiday season. Or, what if you just want to go ahead and add that holly to a vest? Do some holly, put some yo-yo berries on it, hearts, birds. Well, applique is just perfect for any season. The grapes of applique. Well, Marcia made this wall hanging, and it's perfect in these rich fall colors. The whole quilt is tied together with the border, grapes in it as well. Her work is just fantastic. She finished her leaves with the blanket stitch. Now, she did this all by machine. Blanket stitch around the outside edge, triple stitch just to give some dimension to the leaves, and then she did that same triple stitch on the tendrils and all of that free motion quilting with the triple stitch. She did some yo-yos right here for grapes, and I think the best part is right down here in this corner. Now, Marcia made these yo-yos really small. These are just from little 1 1/4 inch circles. I have several different colors of purple corners with a mitered edge. It's perfect. Well, today I want to take that grape wreath and put it right in the center of 4 log cabin blocks. Now, I already showed you how to make the blocks. Use the same technique that we used on the star log cabin, but I did something different. I started with 2 1/2 inch strips instead of the 2 inch strips. Started with the center right here and 3 different lights, all the same on one side, so there's a large area to work with right here, and then the 3 darks going out from that center. And once again, oh, great fabric. It's perfect. Well, I'm going to do a unique technique in applique. You are going to love this. I'm going to use fusible interfacing. Oh, none of those turning under those raw edges. But this is fusible interfacing. It has a smooth side to it, and it has a dotted fusible side. And we want to place it with the smooth side up. Now this is the pattern for the grape wreath, and I just want to work on the leaves right now. So I'm just going to put this right over top. Use a permanent marking pen. Now it has to be permanent because we're eventually going to add some steam to this, and we don't want this to bleed onto our fabric. So use a permanent marking pen and just trace around those leaves. And if you want to, you could go ahead and draw that center right in the middle for some dimension. That's going to be stitched on later. Oh, it's tricky to stay on the line. It's so tricky, I think, that I often don't do really well. So what I did is silk screen the pattern right onto the fusible interfacing. That might be an easier way for you to go. This is the whole pattern right on the fusible interfacing, and underneath it I have the green that I want to use for the leaves. So I think I'll just line that up. The leaf fabric is right side up. Let me position that so I can get that on there. Oh my gosh, it barely makes it. Might have to move that fourth leaf down there, but just cut on those dotted lines. I'm cutting the fabric right underneath at the same time. Well, that goes fast. Now, let's see. Take a pin. Let me move some of this out of the way. My gosh, I can't even find my sewing machine and my pin right here. Stick a pin right through your pattern, and then use a metal presser foot. It has to be an open toe metal presser foot. You know, the plastic feet just don't slide along on this. So use a metal foot. Use a very small stitch length. Oh, how about 1.8? That sounds good. And I'm going to use the needle in or the needle down position and just very carefully sew on that line. Let me use that needle down. Gosh, I told you to do it. And right at the corners, just go ahead, leave the needle in and pivot. This is a gentle curve right here. Now the best way is just to go ahead and keep your fingers handy. Keep them loose right on here so you can manipulate and turn this piece. Now I have all 4 leaves on here. I could have gone ahead and cut them apart into smaller sections. That would have been fine too. So I just worked on 1 leaf at a time. Oh my gosh, but look at this. I'm coming right around on that last end, and then I'm sewing right on the inside edge of that line, just going right back to where I started. That was it. That wasn't bad at all. Gosh, that went pretty quick. Now, where did I put my scissors? Moved it out of the way, then I can't find anything. Okay, so now trim approximately 1/8 inch away from the stitching. Very carefully trim right up here. Take a little nip in, go around. Now, I was thinking about Eunice as I was working. She got curious about 1986. She started wondering just how many quilts she had made. So she started keeping track, and it is incredible because, you know, since 1986, she has made over 90 quilts. Oh my gosh, can't believe that. 90 quilts, and she's 82 years old. I hope I'm making quilts when I'm 82. That'll be great. Okay, now just take this. This has been trimmed. I think I'll just make sure I took little nips right in there. And from this side, I'm going to just slit that open. Oh, take a narrow little cut like this. And this piece is very large, so I can just go ahead and stick my fingers right in there, turn that around very easily. And now once you have it started to turn, that's just almost there. But let me pull my turning tools around here. Mackie looked at all these tools, and she said I look like a surgeon getting ready. Okay, these are some of the favorite things that I like to use. This is a stiletto. Right here with these points, these parts that aren't coming out, go ahead and just take the stiletto and from the outside gently prod that in there and pull these points out. This is perfect. This is a point turner. You might want to go ahead and take this, use it to curve around those outside edges, and move this around right up here. Use the pointed end just to push out the leaves. Whoa. Love this green fabric, probably one of my favorite fabrics for leaves. Used it over and over again. Now, we want to stuff this. Oh, we want stuffed grapes. Have some stuffed leaves. Favorite dish of mine, actually. But just go ahead and take 100% cotton to stuff this. Put it right on top. And then with your scissors, trim around the outside edge. Just trim it to the turn size. Trim out, around. You know, Eunice chose to do some really difficult quilts as her favorites. Her favorite is Grandma's flower garden, double wedding ring, fan. Not really easy ones to do, huh? You know, cut along here. And then another tool, favorite tool coming up, hemostats. Just go ahead and take hold of the cotton right here and push that right up to the top edge. Grab this right here and pull it up to the leaf. And then just work it around. It works so easy. Gosh, I can't even remember whenever I didn't use my hemostats because this makes the job so easy to do. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I have several more leaves that I'd like to make. Get that all pulled around there. And as soon as I get my leaves done, I'll show you how to do the yo-yos. I have several different colors of purple stacked up for those grapes. Now those grapes can be just regular circles or yo-yos. Oh boy, I like the yo-yo grapes. I like to make my circles from a Circle Master, and this is what it looks like. On one sheet of plastic, it has all the different sizes of circles from I think 1 inch up to 3 inches. And the circle that I want to use is the 2 3/4 inch circle. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace on a stack of that purple. I used to go in my closet, my kitchen closet, and pick out every single jar lid I could find. And then after I ransacked my closet, it wasn't the right size anyways. So I think the Circle Master works much better. All right, great stack of grapes. Now, for the yo-yo, you do it by hand. Oh, darn. But that's really the best way. You need a needle with a double strand of thread knotted on the end and a thimble on your finger. This is going to be unusual, seeing me sewing. But you work from the wrong side and just turn under that raw edge 1/4 inch. Oh, this is TV work because you can just sit, watch your favorite program, just do a whole stack of yo-yos or grapes or cherries or whatever you want them to be. But just gather up until your needle is completely full, and then with your thimble, just push that through using red thread, but you're going to want to coordinate your thread to your circle. Just keep on going. Oh my gosh. I think in just one more little bit, I'll be the whole way around. Now the yo-yo quilts that survived were often done with a heavy quilting thread so that they didn't fall apart. So you might want to use something heavier than regular thread. Okay, push that through and then just pull this whole circle tight. Let's see what happens. Ooh, hold your tongue just right so you don't break those threads. Well, that looks good. And then you just want to work with it, pull it tight, and at the same time work with those gathers. I do take the needle and just push it from the front to the back side and then just take a knot right here. Oh, and you could make a whole cluster of grapes. I wanted to show you a great technique on the bow. You're gonna love this. I already did the stitching on it and turned one of the bows, but it's such a long, narrow thing, you're gonna wonder, how can I ever do that? Well, just take a straw. Now this is just from your favorite fast food store. Just take a straw and just stick that right in there. And then you need a ball-pointed bodkin. It has to have the ball right on the end. And then just turn it so that the fabric is right on the end of that straw, and this is the miracle. You can just push that right through there. Oh, it's so long, you can just take it right out. And then with your stiletto, with your tools, push that point out. Another tool I love is the wooden iron. Oh, this works great for creasing right along those edges just to make those bows. Well, I already took half of my leaves and pressed them in place. Now I've got to get the rest on. I positioned them in the circle. Now these have already been pressed down on the electronic press, and underneath I put a 16-inch square ruler. Let's see if I can do this. because I did a little shadow on the leaves. Whoa, to the press with this. Just lay it right on there, slip that ruler out, and just a little mist, a little spraying, a little mist on it. Put it in place. Let me just move this because I see a tip of this one coming. Pull it down with the right. Hold it on tight, and you just let it heat. Even if you're using just a regular iron, you want to put some heat onto it at least for 30 seconds. Yeah, it's saying, lift me up. Oh, that looks good. Okay, now, because it has the batting and the stuffing, I just want to flip it over from the other side. How about another little bit of mist? You need to have some water because from this side now, it's going to stick even better. Oh, let's see how we've got that down. That's looking great. Oh, all I need to do is get that bow on there. Now, I'll be really pleased with this. Now, once you have your leaves in place, how about some stitching? Well, you can do it a number of ways, and it depends what type of sewing machine you have. Do you have just a straight stitch? Doesn't matter. Do a straight stitch around the outside edge. Or if you have a zigzag stitch, you could use invisible thread, do a zigzag stitch. But the stitch that I really like is the blanket stitch. It looks like Eunice's. So I'm just going to set up my machine for the blanket stitch. Oh, let's see. It's automatic setting. Looks pretty good. Let's try it. Actually, I need to do a mirror image on it. And I switch to my applique foot. It's just a clear plastic foot. And I'm taking a straight stitch right on the background and taking a bite over into the leaf. And you just carefully hold on to it. Oh, imagine you could go ahead and have black thread. Oh, I really like that. That looks good. Now, you could go ahead and use invisible thread as well and go around this. And because I did that shadow with the two leaves, I think I'll just go ahead and stitch down the dark one and leave that lighter shadow just loose. Probably look like grapes curling up. Oh, it looks great. Okay, now, it's very easy to manipulate. This whole wall hanging is not large to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch around my leaves, and then I'll show you the next step. I'm flipping out while I sew. Well, actually, I'm flipping my borders out while I sew. I took my top and centered it on my batting and my backing. And then I've been placing my borders right sides together and just sewing through all thicknesses. Well, it works great because I'm doing the machine quilting and adding the borders at the same time. I have my walking foot on. I lengthen my stitch. Oh, it's about 3.1, 3.7. That works, but it goes really quick this way. And then you don't see that stitch in the ditch in the end as well. Just trim off those pieces and I'll show you how it looks. Now, take the pins out, fold this border out, and I just want to show you some of the detail in the block. Oh, it looks great. Here's that shadow I decided to do. You can see that that leaf is loose along there. Some of the tendrils is just couching. And then I sewed my yo-yos down with invisible thread and the same stitch that you sew your buttons on. Oh, it goes fast. You can do it by machine. It looks great. Well, all I have to do is my binding, but actually, I have another technique that I want to show you before I do my binding. Sue Bouchard did this radiant star, and oh, I just call it a great folk art radiant star. All bright colors. It's going to look so great in her home. But there's one more technique that I want to show you, and that's the stems. Now, you already know how to do the applique and the flowers, on the heart and the leaves, but the stems come from a bias piece of fabric. Oh, I just have a green square right here. And you take your 6 by 24 inch ruler and just line it up with the straight edge, the 45-degree line right on that straight edge. Let me grab my tools so I can show you. And then just go ahead, cut one bias strip, and then once it's cut on the bias, depending on how wide you want your stems, you can cut different widths of strips. I'm just going to cut a 1.5 inch. This will be a rather narrow. You might even want to do 1 3/4 inches. Then the trick is to go ahead and take that strip and fold it But when you sew it, put this thread fuse in the bobbin, just in the bobbin, regular thread on top, because this is going to make it adhere to the background with the heat. This is one I did already, something like this. There you can see it running along their regular thread here. And before you go on, oh, you've got to trim this off. Make sure you trim all the ends of your thread as well. If you take that to the press and press on it, it'll just stick right to it. Now you can use this technique on stems. You can use it on baskets, handles of baskets. You might even want to use this on vines. We'll do long vines all over the place. Okay, now we're just going to take this and press it with the bias bar. This is a bias bar. It's about, I'd say 3/8 of an inch. And you just slip it right in. And as you slip it, you center this seam right down through the bias bar and just kind of crease it like that. Now the heat is not going to go through, we hope. The heat's not going to go through that plastic. It works really well. And then once you crease the edge, crease it along there, then let's just go ahead and position it on our background square. The radiant star is perfect for having all of this white space. Let me just take this strip right here, cut it a little bit shorter, and we'll just do some twining. Ooh, stick that end right there. That looks cute. Put that leaf right up there. Do one more cut. Make sure that seam's turned along there. Tuck that end under. Let's see. Oh, yes. Looks good. Little bit of mist. Oh, let's see. I've got that heart on a little crooked. Can't have a crooked heart. Turn that like that. Just press that down. Now, while you're doing this, when you're finishing this up, you might really want to take a twin needle as this because it's perfect for sewing down both sides of the stem. Well, the press tells me it's done. Oh, it's great. Oh, look at it. I love it. So folk art. Well, this is just perfect. You can have the best of both worlds. You can have pieced blocks with beautiful applique overlay. Applique is beautiful on clothing as well. This jacket is made from a really old quilt, and I just love the back. Those soft pastel flowers all tied together with a lavender bow. Now, more lavender in this jacket. These are the 5-petal flowers embellished with some colonial knots or some French knots. This is really just a yo-yo that you stitch through the center 5 different times. Now, I mentioned that bias bar on the handles. You can see the handles right here, stitched down with a twin needle. Oh, the basket is pleated. You can even put your hand in there. How about something with a more country touch? I just love Sam and Sue, my 2 favorite characters, standing with the heart between them and that yellow button. Just adds the touch. And some soft pastel colors on the front as well. Little balloon, it looks like, made out of a yo-yo with a button. Now this one looks as good going as it does coming. This is the Ohio rose that's sewn onto the back of a collar. Sweatshirt jacket, really comfortable and cozy. How about something for a more elegant touch? The jacket with ruching on it, 3 different colors of ruching, and it's just that ruffled edge, applique flowers going along. Well, I want to show you how to do the ruching. Now that's made from a 1 3/4 inch strip that you just sew lengthwise, and then once you sew it lengthwise, you turn it right side out and center that seam so that it goes down the back. Now, when you ruche, you want to do some marking on it. You mark every inch, but you offset it by a 1/2 inch so you can see the markings going down. You need a thimble and a double strand with a knot, and you just sew in a zigzag. And the most important part when you're doing the ruching is when you get to that outside edge that you make sure you just lap over that outside edge. You just loop it over the edge, because once you do all of that looping, you stitch several inches, got that zigzag stitching, then you just pull it up to create that ruffled effect, and then you just wrap it in a little circle here. You have to do some hand stitching to put it down. Well, no matter what you do, applique is great. So you have a great time overlaying your applique.